Uddhava Gita is a part of which is traditionally held to be a work of Vyasacharya. Bhagavata Puranam is a big work consisting of 18,000 and odd shlokas, and this Bhagavata Puranam, which tells this and his incarnations, has got 12 sections. In Sanskrit, they are called skandhas, and of these 12 sections, Uddhava Gita is a portion occurring in the 11th section, Ekadasha Skandhaha. And this section consists of many chapters called Adhyayas, and of these many chapters, 24 chapters constitute Uddhava Gita. So this portion begins from the 6th chapter of the 11th section, and it continues up to the 29th chapter. Thus, in the 11th section, 6th to 29th chapters constitute the Uddhava Gita. In this, we are going to choose only one chapter for our study, and in the Bhagavatam text, it is the 13th chapter. That is, if you take the 6th chapter as the first chapter of the Uddhava Gita, 7th will become 2nd, 8th will become 3rd, the 13th will become the 8th chapter of the Uddhava Gita. And this entire Uddhava Gita happens to be a dialogue between Lord Krishna and Uddhava, who happens to be a relative of Krishna, a minister of Krishna, a devotee of Krishna. And the context of this dialogue is as follows. Lord Krishna destroys the demon Kamsa, which was one of the main purposes of his incarnation. And after destroying Kamsa, his father Ugrasena was reinstalled as the king. And by that time, Krishna's family people have become very powerful and unfortunately very arrogant also. Krishna's family is called Yadava family because they are descendants of the king Yadu. And all Yadavas had taken to corruption and wrong ways of life, not respecting elders, not respecting sages, etc. And once what happens is, some sages visit Lord Krishna. All great sages like Kanva, etc. And some of the Yadavas decide to play a mischief in front of these sages. And the leader of this group was none other than Krishna's own son called Samba. Krishna had many sons through many wives, and Samba was the son through Jambavati. And what they do is, they dress up Samba as a pregnant woman. They dress up Samba as a pregnant woman, and they carry this girl in front of the sages. Carry means they lead. And they all fall prostrate and say that this girl is about to give birth to a child. Please tell what type of child will be born. After all, you are great sages, Trikala Jnanis. You must be knowing the future also. Nowadays, they are able to determine the sex of the child. That was there in the olden days also. And the sages knew the trick, and they get angry for the behavior of these Yadavas, and they give a curse. They say that an iron pestle, Olakai, an iron pestle will be born to this girl. And not only that, your entire family will destroy by mutual quarrel, will destroy your own family. And these Yadavas laughed because they thought, how can a pestle be born? And the sages left. And when they removed the dress of Samba, to their surprise they found there was an iron pestle within the dress. And they got very much frightened. And they all ran to Ugrasena, the king, and complained that the rishis have made such a curse, and an iron pestle has come out. Then the king tells, you destroy this pestle. So they all take the pestle and make into small iron filings, and they throw that into the ocean. And by that time they come to Lord Krishna. Krishna doesn't feel like protecting the Yadava family, even though it was Krishna's own family. Krishna feels that the Yadava family has become unruly and adharmic, Even though it is my own family, any adharmic family cannot continue in the world. Therefore, let the curse remain alive, and this Yadava family will have to be destroyed. However, Krishna suggests that all the Yadavas should go to a sacred place called Prabhasa Tirtha. A sacred place called Prabhasa, which is a place in South Gujarat, in Saurashtra region. And Lord Krishna suggests that you spend your time in prayers, puja, meditation, dhyanam, etc. And if you are saved from this curse because of this, it is okay. Even if you are going to die, you are going to die with prayers, puja, etc. Good gati can come. And in keeping with Krishna's suggestion, all the Yadavas decided to travel to Prabhasa Tirtha. And at this juncture only, Uddhava comes to know everything. And Uddhava somehow knows that the time for destruction has come. And when all the Yadavas were preparing to leave, Uddhava quietly approaches Krishna. And he tells, "Hey Krishna, I think somehow the destruction is imminent." And remember, when the whole Yadava family is going to be destroyed, Lord Krishna is also included, because he is also Yadava. Krishna also knows that, and Uddhava also somehow feels that. And Uddhava tells Krishna that he will not be able to live without Krishna around. I am so much attached to you. I am a devotee of you. I cannot remain without you even for a second. But Krishna cannot do anything because the time has come for separation. And therefore, Krishna decides to teach him the eternal truths of life. And this is how a dialogue between Krishna and Uddhava takes place. So the juncture is just before the Yadavas leaving for Prabhasa Tirtha. Of course, you should not ask, how can 24 chapters be taught? Because after all, for preparing to go, maybe half an hour, 1 hour. How can 24 chapters be taught? You should not ask. Maybe Krishna taught the essence and Vyasacharya elaborated that. But this is the context in which the dialogue between Krishna and Uddhava takes place. And to complete the story, after elaborate teaching, Uddhava accepts the fact. It is time for Yadavas to perish. It is time for Krishna to go back to Vaikuntha. And Krishna advises Uddhava to go to Badrinath and do tapas there and leave his body remembering the Lord. And Uddhava agrees to do that. After the Uddhava Gita is over, he goes to Badrinath and gives up his body doing tapas. And Krishna joins the Yadava group and they all go to Prabhasa Tirtha. And there what happens? All the iron filings which they had thrown into the ocean, they had been brought to the seashore. After all the waves near Prabhasa Tirtha. And on the shore, a special type of grass appeared. They call it as Eraka grass. Tall, thick. And in that grass, what was mixed up? The iron filings with the rishis' curls. Karma as mixed up. And one piece of the iron pestle, which they could not reduce into filings, it was just thrown into the ocean. It seems a fish swallowed that bit of iron. And a hunter catches this fish. How the karma works, you will have to see. And he finds the iron piece, sharp iron piece of the pestle with the curls is there. And he thinks that this is a nice piece of iron which can be fixed to the arrow and kept for hunting. And in the meanwhile, all the Yadavas were living in the Prabhasa Tirtha, and at some time they enter into some debate, some quarrel over something, and they start fighting among themselves. And they looked for weapons. What weapon will be there in the seashore? Nothing was there except the Eraka grass, in which the iron filings along with the curls of rishis was there. And they pluck that grass and they start hitting each other. And Lord Krishna watches the whole show, each one dying. Krishna enjoys the scene objectively because yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Adharma is rising and therefore they have to be killed by the rishis' curls. Even though they are Krishna's own kith and kin, Krishna doesn't interfere. He sees objectively adharma dying, which is a good news for the world. And when Krishna was sitting under the foot of a tree, the hunter with that iron piece fixed to the arrow was going, and it seems that Lord Krishna's leg was hanging down and the toes were seen. And from distance, when the hunter saw the toe, he thought it is an animal like deer or something, because only a portion was seen. And therefore he aims and shoots the arrow. Even though normally an arrow shot at a toe cannot destroy a person, but remember, this is not an ordinary arrow. This is the arrow with that pestle and also with the rishis' curls. What curls? That the entire Yadava family should perish. Therefore Lord Krishna succumbs to that, and then he leaves to Vaikuntha. This is how the Ekadasha Skandha, the 11th section of Bhagavata ends. And it is in between this the Uddhava Gita dialogue takes place. And it is called Uddhava Gita because it has been taught to Uddhava. In the Mahabharata we have got Bhagavad Gita. Why it is called Bhagavad Gita? You should not apply Anakya Arram theory here. Uddhava Gita was taught to Uddhava. Therefore Bhagavad Gita was taught to... very careful. So there Bhagavad Gita is... it was taught by Bhagavan. Therefore Bhagavad Gita. Here it is taught to Uddhava. Therefore it is Uddhava Gita. Because in Sanskrit, compounds must be specially, very carefully split. Like manjapudi. Why it is called manjapudi, turmeric powder? Because it is turmeric powdered, therefore turmeric powder. So very simple, a Sanskrit teacher told the student, very simple, why do you ask such a question? Turmeric powder means turmeric powdered. Then the student immediately asked, then sir, what is tooth powder? You cannot say tooth powdered is tooth powder. So there you have to split the compound differently, a powder for cleaning the teeth. Turmeric powder, powder made out of turmeric. Mukupudi, not the nose powdered you should not take. According to the context, you should split the compound properly. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita means Bhagavata Prokta Gita Bhagavad Gita. Uddhavena Prapta Gita Uddhava Gita. And in the first 7 chapters, Lord Krishna teaches different aspects of Vedanta. And in the 8th chapter, we get Atma Anatma Viveka very clearly and precisely. So therefore I thought it will be a nice chapter for the camp discussion. So with this background, we will enter into the text, the 8th chapter of Uddhava Gita. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sattvam Rajastama iti Guna Buddhirna Chatmanaha Sattve Nanyatamo Hanyat Sattvam Sattvena Chaivahi. So here the Lord Krishna discusses the 3 gunas. Then the word sattva indicates spiritual disposition. When a person has got a spiritual inclination, spiritual orientation or spiritual disposition or spiritual bent of mind. Whereas when a person has got a materialistic disposition, for worldly achievements, worldly name, fame, position, money, etc., that disposition, that character, that inclination is called rajas or rajasic disposition. Not interested in both the above. A disposition because of which a person is not interested in spiritual pursuit also, not interested in material pursuit also, almost living an animalistic life, only catering to the basic needs. He wants to eat when hungry, and then he will go to sleep, and thereafterwards eat, as they say in Malayalam, undal oranganam. Orangiyal unnanam. Undal oranganam, orangiyal unnanam. Therefore, they have to only satisfy the basic needs. Neither they have the dynamism to accomplish greater material goals, nor are they interested in moksha. This inertia, this dullness or this laziness is called tamas or tamasic disposition. And here Krishna wants to say, what Krishna wants to say is that all these states or all these dispositions belong to the mind or buddhi only. All these states or all these dispositions are only conditions of the mind, or you can say conditions of the intellect, or in general antahkaranam only. And Krishna wants to point out that the mind is anatma, different from the atma. Mind is anatma, an object which is different from atma, the subject. And therefore all dispositions belong to anatma alone. All dispositions belong to anatma alone. Atma is free from sattva guna, rajo guna and tamo guna. Atma